Welcome, everybody. Welcome into a buttoned up business as usual podcast. Chris Paul is back. All right, can I just say Chris Paul is back? We got Salty in the house. Go ahead and pull Salty in here. Go ahead and get that banger out of here. But, so you're the one that brought this to my attention. I got to give you credit. I was not ready for this.
You were not ready for this.
I had no idea, but he's back. It could be Wednesday.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know where you want to start with this, but
Let me just. I want to start with Sundo's going to be pissed. Sundo does not like the way that Chris Paul goes so hard and plays so much and in the regular season. So he's going to be upset. I don't know how to feel about it. You know? What do you think?
it was strange from the beginning. I mean, when's the last time you can remember a dude sustaining an injury,
A
and then
break.
playing in a break in his hand, and then playing in the All-Star game? That was the first strange thing.
Agreed.
And then just the reaction from him, it just all did not seem like it was going to go the length. So from the beginning, in my opinion, I never thought it was going to do that. Like I was telling you before we set this up, that I think we were in the podcast and Eric was in there, and I was talking about it was like right after it happened. So Eric from Blazers Uprise, he looked it up, and people were saying, oh, this is going to go 8 weeks. I was like, 8 weeks? I was like, if that was like a ridiculous break on his finger, yeah, 8 weeks.
Right.
But I wasn't buying all that shit. How many weeks are left up in the regular season?
Dude, there's only like 7 games. It's like less than 2 weeks.
So how long has he been out? When did he sustain?
He went out.
Catching off guard here.
It was I believe it was the last time we played the Pelicans, or 2 times ago that we played the Pelicans.
It's because it's like a length. I just want to know.
I'm looking right now. I'm looking right now.
4 weeks or something like that.
I want to say February 25th. He went out February 25th.
All right. So how many days?
That's like literally 4 weeks, dude.
4 weeks.
Because he's coming back on the 23rd, maybe.
Bare minimum is exactly what I was thinking, and just based off of what was going on. Give me a second. Hold the mic real quick. I need to put some sound things. Can you hear my kids? At all?
No, it's not that bad.
All right, hold on.
So yeah, it's been a month. Sundo says, "You bums, Sundo." I mean, of course we would love to have you, but you're the hardest working man in America, and them's the breaks. My wife in the house, very handsome gay. Well, I just figured I'd go purple, and I figured I'd go classy for CP3. This is an exciting day. I'm excited, but I'm torn. I'm feeling what JV is saying about it's a good move because we got to get CP3 to get the rust off. But like, I know what Sundo's going to think, and I have to kind of agree with him too. You back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Go ahead then.
All right, so I was talking about the length of the injury. So I just never bought it, and then he didn't really ever have. Did he? I think he maybe had a brace on for a couple days, but he went to the All-Star game with no brace, right?
Yeah.
And he played. I was just like, man, I don't buy this. I don't like. I know it was broken, but the severity of it or the 8 weeks stuff, I was like, nah, that's not happening. What'd you think when he went down?
The opposite of you. I thought shut his ass down. The whole reason the Lakers won that LeMickey title is because they had at least, 2 months off, maybe 3 months off of no playing, and they got to rest their legs. I was excited for a fully leg rested Chris Paul. And I thought that that's what the Suns were going to do, especially Salty. The fact that we haven't been terrible without him. We've been doing just fine. What is the rush? Now I do want him to get his rust off. But bruh. Now, this is a very tough 7-game stretch ahead of us. Almost all of them are losable games. So maybe that's the thinking.
Initially, when he was injured, what was your thought process? Like, what did you think we were gonna go record wise and all that
Okay.
stuff? Like, what was going through your head?
My initial reaction to that was scary hours are
Yeah.
ahead. And Booker has to take a step forward, which now I feel like he 100% has. Last year's Booker with no Chris Paul is different than this year's Booker with no Chris Paul. It's different. Much better. So all in all, I'm just super impressed with the team that we were able to hold everybody off the way we were. Mm-hmm. We beat some good teams by a lot of points without him.
What's our record been? I'm curious. Like, do you know? Without
Yeah, I can look it up because I've still got it pulled up. So since that, we lost that game. We lost the game he went down. So that's 2-2, 2-3, 5-3, 5-4, 10-4. 10-4 without Chris Paul, bro.
pretty damn good, right?
11-4. Iverson says I might have counted incorrectly, but
what's the percentage?
don't ask me to do that much math.
I know.
Be happy with what I gave you.
Someone in the chat knows math.
Yeah.
Smarter than us, but you could just see that without percentages that's really good. And it's not like we played schlubs the whole time,
Nope.
Did we?
Nope. We beat the Bulls. We beat the at the time the Bulls were number 1. We beat the breaks off of them, and we beat the Raptors when they were number 1. Beat the breaks off of them. You know.
I think the narrative when he went down was CP3 was the MVP candidate on the Suns. He was carrying the Suns, and that Booker wasn't capable of carrying the Suns, right? Wouldn't you say that?
Agree.
Like they were saying that was the narrative. And I think that narrative's kind of just got dispelled. I mean, it was looking questionable in the beginning, but then, they got it together. And even within this whole run, we've had injuries and people not playing, and Cam Johnson and Crowder missed time. So I'm perplexed how we achieved that 11-4. I don't think anybody would have thought that, because
No.
if you rewind the tape back then, I think Golden State was second, and it was neck and neck with the Suns, right? I mean, we pulled away from them. I don't know. I don't remember necessarily what the gap was there, but Golden State was pretty close to us at the time, and now it's just separation there. It's just crazy. Like, it just speaks to the depth of the team, the mentality of the team, the next man up situation, how much they like each other. And there's tons of players that we can talk about that have stepped up in his absence. And you can arguably ask if they're better off because of the injury, because of what it did to help people expand their roles. Or
it did.
Folks.
It did. Don't even phrase it like that, because it did. Look at what it did for Campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Campaign is back, baby. You're in his corner. That's how
back, yes.
That's how back he is. Okay. Aaron Holiday, I don't think he's gotten better, but I don't think he's gotten worse. I think he's still pretty good and helpful. I definitely want him to be behind Payne, not Peyton. But Booker and Mikhail got more touches. And Ayton, what do you think about Ayton? Did Ayton get better, or do you think Ayton got worse without Chris Paul? Without looking at the stats.
Ayton stayed the same.
I was going to say, I think he stayed the same.
Just up and down shit. But other than that, So, like, if we rewound the tape, big question marks that we needed to be answered before the trade deadline. Backup point guard was definitely an issue before we got Holiday, and campaign was playing god awful. So that was a huge question mark that we wanted to get fixed. I think that that's been definitely fixed with campaign because he's shown in CP3's absence that he could put up crazy assist numbers. He was putting double digit
So
assist
true,
numbers with
bro.
low turnovers, so he could play that role. Because I question whether or not he could play within himself and control his situation. But CB3 had that talk with him, and he had time to think about stuff when he was injured, and he's playing that role. And like we were going back and forth, but yeah, it's a clear as day that he's number one on the totem pole when you after CP3. But we even won yesterday's game, which we can talk about later, but without campaign we're down to
Yeah. Yeah.
the scraps. But so campaign was able to get out of his funk and expand his role there, and then Landry Shamet, I think he's another player that's had the ability or the
You're
opportunity
right. How could I
to
forget?
get out of his funk. So that's huge. I think that might, when all things are said and done, if he can expand his role and do stuff that he was supposed to, that's crazy. I
I
mean,
don't
our
even
team's
need.
deep
You talk about
enough.
Shammy?
Yeah, because
I don't
imagine
even. I don't even need Shammy to expand his role, bruh.
you don't
Just.
need him to, but
I just
it's
want him to
like,
do his role correctly for once, which it seems like he's doing.
so how
That's
could
all
you
I
compare
need.
it? Because you're like,
Because to me, expanding his role would be something like
uh, I'm
playmaking.
just, I'm just saying in the playoffs. So if you compare this playoff run with
You're
last
you're
year's,
saying
obviously
expand the effectiveness of his role.
his effective,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because we talked about what do the Suns need in the offseason after we got beat by the Bucks. It's like trying to overcome that barrier. One of them was a backup center. Another one was like a sniper off the bench. Gary talked about it. Some other people talked about it. It's like that player that comes off the bench that snipes some threes and is annoying as fuck. Steve
That's
Kerr was one of
yes.
those on the Bulls. There's always that white guy or, like a 3-point shooter that is annoying. Paxton on the Bulls that beat the Suns eventually.
Luke Kennard.
Yeah, just 3-point specialist. So, you have that with Cam Johnson, and he's definitely taken a step up, but he's been injured. So it's like it just makes your team that much more dangerous. And the Suns don't necessarily need that, but it's like the rich get richer. That saying, or it's like Thanos adding to the Infinity Gauntlet. It's like he has 3 stones or 4, but he's like, why not add another one on there? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just for good measure. My power is like crazy right now, but let's add some more on top of it. Or it's like you're a rich person or you run a company and you're like, man, we're already racking in billions, but we could make an extra billion here. We're still going to be one of the, you know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
like, why not? Because at this point, you want to do everything in your power to make sure that you're going to win the ultimate goal, which is a title. So if, Shamit can hit threes in the playoffs, that's just another feather in the cap, you know. And that's I don't know. They signed him in the offseason, and that seemed like a bust. We're all thinking about how we could trade him or get rid of his contract, but if he, does his thing and fills his role and helps us win a championship, I think that would be great. So him, I don't know, how would you rank those players?
Shoot, as
Like
far as
who
improvement,
benefited the
ooh, that's
most
good.
with this, out of the
That's good.
CP3
That's a good question for
absence?
everybody in the chat actually to answer. Just you guys don't have to like go one through whatever, but just who do you guys think improved the most in the absence of Chris Paul? I think the best improvement I saw was in campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect campaign to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like when Chris Paul goes down, a la the playoffs last year, he like his mind is right, and he says, I need to play like him to help supplement the loss of him. But when Chris Paul's playing, he's like, now I get to play like campaign, baby. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think that he just had the ability to just not worry about someone breathing over his shoulder, and he was able to just focus on being what he's supposed to be, in point guard.
So do you think he's
Basically.
number one as far as improvement? I'll take that as yes. Second,
Yeah.
second, I'm going with Booker.
Mm-hmm.
Because we cannot overlook. I know Booker's always been great, but dude, he's been automatic. The only word that
Mm-hmm.
comes to mind is automatic. I'm more surprised when his shots don't go in. It's like, whoa, what the hell? How did that not go in? Because he's just laser focused. And I don't think I've ever seen him this laser focused for this long of a stretch. Remember last year, we were constantly having games where we were like, Booker just didn't bring it. I guess he was banging Kendall too hard last night. Remember that shit? Have we said that one time this year? No. How many
No.
times has Kendall been brought up? None. Because this dude
I mean,
is
was
just...
that was kind of like, I guess it was during the whole year, but we
Whole
were talking
year.
about that during the playoffs too. Yeah. I haven't brought it up. It's more, he took the next step up. And they were talking about his defensive percentage, like scored off of him, like players, opponents versus him. He's number one, I guess, from the shooting guard percentage, like points scored on him from defense. So that's crazy. So he's good. He's stepping up defensively, which people just kind of gloss over because before Monty got here, he didn't play defense at all. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because he wasn't, people didn't ask it of him. But if you look at some of the greats, all-time greats, Kobe and Jordan, they played defense, right?
Not just played defense. They were
Just
like defensive player of the year candidates and first team all defense like every freaking time, man. Even Kobe.
I think Booker could get up in the defensive teams if he wants to, dude.
I think he's deserving of being third team defense. I can't say that, statistically. I don't know if that's statistically he's worth it. But from the eye test, he looks like it, dude. He's playing incredible defense. Not just good for a scorer only. He looks like he's a two-way player now. Never
Which
thought
is
I would
insane.
say that. And a lot of that could just be he knows he's playing for a title, so he's much more motivated to dig deeper on defense. But I think he sees Mikhail getting all these steals, and he sees Chris Paul getting all these steals, and Crowder, and he's like, I want in on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So-
go ahead.
Sorry, I got distractions over here. So CP3's coming back, right? Do you think it's too early for him to make a return? Like, do you think it's one of those things where, or do you think he needs to get the time back to get back in the flow? Because one of the players that I am kind of worried about is Cam Johnson. Like, the dude is, unfortunately, he could have, because he took that next step. Like, we're talking about like almost taking a step into like trying to be on a path like Booker was to take him to the next level, because it was that game where he went off for like what crazy amount of points,
38.
30, 38, yeah,
With the buzzer
then-
beater.
and he made a game winner, and then boom, you're injured and you're out, and it's like, damn. Because like, imagine, because his role would have expanded, obviously, because Crowder's been out too, and he just piggybacks off of that momentum swing and that confidence and just propels him into the next level. And unfortunately, we didn't get that time to see where that would have gone, because I would have been curious to see if you could have kept that momentum up. And I'm still wondering when he's coming back, because he needs to get into playing shape and shooting the ball, because there were times where Cam was
Super
not
streaky.
he wasn't making shots.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want him to come back and just be, not in shape and then being on a bad streak to enter the playoffs. But I guess we don't control that, nor have we gotten an update. So That's unfortunate because I wish he would have stayed around and got a chance to expand his role.
If you were James Jones or Chris Paul, not Chris Paul, if you're James Jones or if you're Monty, would you sit down Chris Paul and be like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're healthy. We're so happy about your thumb. You're not playing. You're not playing early. The doctor said your bone was broken.
Mm-hmm.
Just relax. We're winning almost every game without you. Try to relax, good sir. That's what I would do. And I would say you're not coming back. If you really want to come back, 2-3 games before the playoffs, that's fine. That's all you need, old man. Sit down and relax. We need you so badly in the playoffs. We cannot afford something like this
He should be looking at it as a time to just this should be his, because CP3's always talked about, well, he hasn't won a championship or whatever. And it's like, man, you should think that you're old. I guess he doesn't have that mentality because he's on that vegan diet and shit.
Yeah. I want to, we have to shout out the props. I want to give him props and mad respect for being such a effing warrior. That's not lost on me, CP3, because I know you're listening. It's not lost on me what a gutty, badass warrior you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like I don't appreciate that. I want you bubble wrapped because you're that important.
There's always the argument of going into the playoffs, is it more important to have rest or have momentum? Because it depends on the sport, because what is it, like baseball? It seems, I don't watch baseball anymore, but I do remember that some of the teams that can catch fire at the end of the season can carry that into like winning a title if they get hot at the right time. But with basketball, it's kind of, that's what I'm saying. Like, he could still run with a bum finger, even if he wasn't doing that to stay in shape, but it's not the same as game shape. Like, game shape's different than staying in shape. So
and I just want to add to that. You got your game shape, but you also have your shooting rhythm.
Yep.
You got game shape for your lungs and your legs, but then also you got to be in rhythm and really have your shot,
So wouldn't you say that it's important that he gets back?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, but I just
get back into rhythm and shape. And
I believe in him so much that I don't think it's going to take him that long. And he could just come in and for the first few games shoot less and just, pass the ball, run the offense, get everybody going. And if he's wide open, maybe knock one down, it's first round,
Because what is the...
He's coming back early, bro. He's coming back earlier than the doctors basically said. That's where I'm coming from here. It's like, I'm not mad at him if he's just coming back on time. I'm not like, look, I know they said you can come back, but don't. It's like, dude, they said double the time almost. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, if it's, I don't think he'd be coming back if it's not 100% healed. I mean, maybe it was just they're siding on the side of cautiousness.
Right,
like,
right.
Hey, this is a fracture. This is the worst case scenario. It could be here. I'm sure he's up in the hyperbaric chamber getting oxygen and shit, all the weird shit that they get access to because they're millionaires, and it gets them back faster. So shit just healed up. And if you got I mean, it's a thumb, dude. I mean, it's not like it's this ACL got blown out or some shit.
True.
You're coming back and it's your thumb. I mean, if your shit's messed up or not. I mean,
if you can dribble enough.
Yeah. Because he was playing in the playoffs with like a bum shoulder and all this other shit,
Yeah. If the doctors, which I assume they did, if the doctors have truly said you can play now and you're not going to damage it, all right, man, I'll shut up. I'll just shut the hell up and be glad that he's a warrior. So I guess that's fair.
Because you really got to look like how many games do we have left? What is our magic number? You know,
Does anybody
in the
know that in the
standings.
chat? Could you guys tell us what the magic number is now? We've kind of lost track.
Because it's based off of losses by, what was it, the Grizzlies or the second team? It's like Suns wins and losses by the Grizzlies. So Warriors has lost 2, but that doesn't really matter. Grizzlies have won 1 and we won 5. We're 58 and 14. I know they locked up first round home court advantage, but we still have some time, right? We have 1, 2,
Zenith
3,
said
4,
2.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Zenith said 2.
2?
Yeah.
2 or 1. So you're legitimately saying the last games that we have don't mean anything for the Suns. That's tough, man, because there's, how many games do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You
10
have
games.
10 games, and essentially you don't have to win any of those to get home court.
We
I mean,
just
you
have to go
do,
like
but
2-8, I think.
mm,
But they're not trying to go out like that in the
they're
regular
not.
season.
And you finish up with the Kings, of course. I mean, you're playing against the Timberwolves. It's a tough matchup on Wednesday. You got the Nuggets, tough matchup. 76ers, tough matchup. I mean,
Warriors
tough
tough.
matchup.
Grizzlies tough.
Grizzlies, number 2. Thunder is kind of a break. Lakers suck. Clippers are always tough. Jazz are tough.
Kings play
And
us
then you got the
tough.
Kings. Yeah. So it's a tough situation because, like I said, rest versus momentum. You don't want to set a standard of, hey, we're gonna just lose games, because it kind of messes up the flow. So it's like you're gonna try to win these games, but at the same time, you don't need to go hard and play, because Mikal played like a bunch of, he's been playing tons of minutes, and I get he's that warrior and he doesn't miss time, but I don't think you necessarily need to play Mikal so much. And it's just like Monty needs to ease up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like he
I
needs
agree.
to, and I don't think it's a mentality of the players to, like Booker's not going to want to play 20 minutes in a game when he's used to playing more or some shit. That's like a pride thing. It's like, I'm playing basketball. This is what I do. So why would I lower that down? Especially the people that are playing big minutes. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, because if you just approach it as normal, then you're playing players unnecessarily because you got the shit locked up with 10 games to go.
So
So
then,
what is the answer?
what do you do if we beat the Timberwolves, and then we turn
Mm-hmm.
around the next night and beat the Nuggets, and we've locked it up? It's locked up.
Mm-hmm.
There's no getting better seating. That's done. What do you do?
Mm-hmm. I personally would play the starters first half of games and just sit them in the second half. That's what I would do. And whatever happens, happens, Play the subs the rest of the time. It's kind of what they do in the NFL preseason and shit. They have different quarters they're going to come out and play. Maybe you could go less than a half because they still get game action. And then whatever happens, happens, and not even worry about win losses. Just worry about keeping people in shape and in rhythm, and then play halves. Because it'd probably be smart to rest starters on that second night of back-to-backs. Like Thursday, I mean, the Nuggets game, I probably wouldn't even, I'd rest players because those are tough, right?
Back to back in the mountains with that high altitude.
Give a back-to-back again, April 5th, 6th. I would rest starters on the second night of
Oh yeah,
back-to-backs,
beat them Lakers up, and then go
and then
give
rest the
Reggie Jackson a
Clippers.
free win.
And then for Timberwolves Nuggets, I would play Timberwolves. I'd rest starters for the Nuggets, and then just go whatever you want based off of deed and whatever into the playoffs. But number one priority is trying to be healthy, because the Suns, the last whatever amount of time, have not been healthy, not even close to it. They've been missing so many players Crowder, just people rotating in and out. CP3. Seems like we need to get on a stretch where we can get our full team healthy going in to the playoffs and hit it running, and just take the approach that we had last time, because we played the Lakers. What did it go to 6 games, and then we swept the Nuggets. That rest from the Nuggets series was big, I think, going into the Clippers series, because they had an extended round versus the Mavericks. I think it was 7 games, and then we went rested into that, and I think that helped us in that matchup. So
I like your idea of playing them maybe just the first half of the game. I love that, to keep their keep their momentum going, keep their skills sharp, but then just go ahead and put in our backups and play like we have been, just almost like we're tanking, but still trying to win every game with our lesser players.
Because you could still win with our depth,
We could probably win half of those games with just the depth.
If you rotate certain resting.
And that ain't going to hurt us. It's not going to hurt us. Ronnie Wells has an interesting idea. He said first and fourth. Play him in the first and then in the fourth. I just feel like they'd get too much lactic acid buildup. I feel like they'd get too tight sitting on the bench for 2 quarters. That could lead to injury. But I like the idea. Double T says give the starters 30 minutes a game. I say 20 minutes a game. I like 20 minutes a game.
20 is a good solid amount of time. You're still getting your cardio up. I mean, you're still getting your workout in. You're shooting.
Yep.
It's game speed.
But we're not going to risk you. We're not going to have you out there at the end of games when things get chippy.
Is there any questions else? Let's see. Nancy has a question about Ayton. Yeah, well, not a question, but Suns should do a sign-in trade, or trade Ayton and do a sign-in trade.
I don't know where you feel about that, but for me personally, I'm waiting until seeing playoff Ayton. I want to see what kind of playoff Ayton we get before I make a decision on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd definitely be there too. I think I'm there with you as well. You don't really need to make a decision on that. Just see how they play.
Got to see what happens this playoffs. Because Nancy, he might make a believer out of you. He made a believer out of a lot of people.
Disappointing though.
I agree.
Up and down. He's had opportunities to just kind of take over during these absences, and he just doesn't. I mean, he has good games, but he's been like that up and down. So that's disappointing. But we don't need to talk about Ayton too much, because we always talk about him. He's just like that sore subject, because it always comes up, because it's just up and down, man. Always up and down. What was up with Aaron Holiday? You were talking about it. I wasn't here for the podcast.
He just
wasn't playing.
He just and then Monty 2 games in a row has been going to Elf instead of Aaron Holiday, and then we were losing, and Elf just, dude, it was like the worst game I think I've ever seen him play. It was just terrible passes. And Monty realized it, and through the third and the fourth quarter, he kept Aaron Holiday in like the whole time. And then he went to a Booker Shamet combo, which I said I would also be fine with, and won us the game, bro. But I'm happy that he made that change mid game, because it shows that he's flexible and will make the changes. We're sitting here talking about, what are we gonna do? What would we do? We're gonna get to find out what he chooses to do, and I'm really interested to find out how he goes about playing these last 10 games, especially once if we're able to get, don't want to jinx us, the first seed.
The thing is like, you look at Monty, and I think a lot of the times you kind of gloss over the fact that he doesn't really have experience as a playoff coach,
Well, he does now.
He does now, but we were kind of dogging on him for his adjustments and shit, right? How he got out-coached by Budenholzer or whatever on adjustments and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in reality, I mean, what did he have one playoff series as
I think so.
A coach of a different team.
I think so, yeah.
Long story short, I just think that he wasn't the players were the only ones that were getting experience. He also learned some lessons, I think, that he can take into other,
Yeah.
this year's playoffs and potentially being more flexible and making adjustments based off of what's happening and not being stuck into a certain dogma of like, hey, this is my, I'm going to go with this no matter what, because I think you do need to be flexible and change on the fly for the playoffs depending on matchups and who's hot, who's not, essentially changing your rotations because he likes to stick with those timers,
I
Hey,
can't
this is when
remember.
I bring eight in, and this is that.
I can't remember who I was talking to last night on the phone. It might have been Gary it could have been you. I do not remember. They were
It
saying
wasn't me.
it might have been Romp or even Tori. They were just saying that during the playoffs, the other team is going to double your best player. They're going to double your best
Yep.
players, and they're going to take them away. And I feel like the Suns are so well suited for that now, so much better
Big
suited
time.
for that now than they were. To
Well,
bring
just
it.
think about it from a defensive scheme. So if you want to double, let's say Booker, then that's going to open a 3-point shooter up, or that's going to open, Ayton in the post, or it's really not a smart strategy to do that against the Suns because they're one of the deeper teams and like that I could ever remember. Because it's like, would you really want to double Booker so you can get free open 3-point shots from 3-point shooters?
Crowder,
I don't think that'd be
Bridges,
a good.
Johnson, yeah, no.
Because we were playing against some teams where they're not a good 3-point shooting team, so you kind of structure your defense that way and kind of let the other players beat you. But in this case, shit. I don't know. I mean, pick your poison. You want someone, you want Mikal Bridges to go off for 30 against you, or you want Aiden to go off for 30, or it's just all these players have potential to go 20 plus, and that extends into your bench.
It does.
McGee could go for 20 if he wanted to.
Technically, we've seen Craig do it.
Craig's done it. Anybody on any given night, that's the problem. It's like, well, starters having issues, and if you're not a deep team in the playoffs, the Suns are going to come at you with 5 deep on their rotation. So like Romp was talking about the lack of depth on the 76ers, that's an issue for some of these teams where they have front loaded lineups and then you get to the Suns bench and that's where you can make your hay. Like if it's a close matchup and you go to your bench and then just the bench turns it on and then extends the lead, because remember when our team wasn't deep and Booker would go to the bench and then lead would just evaporate and then we'd get into deficit because he was all we had.
I
And it's
remember
like
it
with
all too well.
the run and gun Suns, for example, like them not having depth and then having to deal with like San Antonio's depth off the bench,
Ugh.
you know?
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have for sure, man. I like what other team in the NBA playoffs would have a team as deep as the Suns?
I have one last question for you. Is there anything else other than that, other than the last question I want to ask you?
Mm-mm.
So somebody, once again, can't remember who, was saying that the problem that we face is we have the highest of expectations and we have the highest of possible letdown. How do you feel about the fact that it truly is championship or failure for the Suns? Is that a problem?
Is it a problem?
Is it? Yeah.
No. No. I mean, I don't know how you could compare it with any other thing, but you've set yourself up. You had issues. You fixed those issues. Barring injury, there should be no excuse to have this kind of a record and to have the second year you're doing it and to have a deeper team by far and to have experience and just to, I know things are different. You come across different things. Like there's a lot of teams that were injured last year, but like I said, the window is what it is. There's a window for this team. There's windows that open up for different teams, and it's like sometimes it's 1 year window, like the Toronto Raptors when they won the championship with Kawhi, and then he left, and then it was like, okay, well that window's closed, or You see Cleveland when they won with Braun, and then it was like, well, that one's closed. It's just like the Suns have a young core. They're going to have an Ibaka type decision and Ibaka Harden decision that they're going to have to go through, but that's next year. But truly being up 2-0 in the finals and then losing that would be nothing compared to this year, in my opinion.
Agree. It would be
Have
devastating.
this deep of a team, to potentially have the franchise record in wins for a season, beating the 92-93 team, and then coming up short. Yeah, I think, because they asked that question on the radio, would it be failure or would it be a disappointment? It's failure. That's all it is. There's nothing else that counts other than a title right now, because the Suns have never had one. You know?
Yeah.
You don't have anything to hold your hat on. And all this other shit is just second. Like all these accolades and records that they're breaking and shit. Like, yeah, it's nice. It
doesn't mean a damn thing. And I also thought about this today. Like, you know how the Suns are getting no respect still nationally. I mean, we are. I don't want to say that we're not getting any respect, because we are. But you know how they don't talk about us very much? Because that's still true. They don't talk about us. I think the reason they don't talk about us is because we got our butts wiped 4 games in a row by the Bucks. And so it's like, we'd love to take you seriously, but you got your ass.
I mean, do you blame them?
No, I don't.
I don't blame any of the media.
Yep.
Because I've had specific experiences with fraud teams like that, like last year's Cardinals. Because, like, the minute the media started drinking the Kool-Aid for the Cardinals, they shit the bed. Like, always was a question mark. And then it went down to, oh, we never get respect. That's the one thing that Cardinals fans would say. And it's like, well, you haven't done shit.
Yeah.
And you're seen as, it's like how I see the Chicago Bulls right now, where I know that they're just kind of this facade.
We weren't that fraudulent last year.
No. But I'm just saying, like, you haven't done anything. Like, you haven't won a title with this core or whatever. You got to the finals, and that's all nice and well for the first time since 93. And then you threw a fucking parade like you won. That was I think at that time, we should have just saw the shit coming, because it was a stark contrast between the locker room of the Bucks, who won the Eastern Conference, and they were just sitting there somber, and people were questioning like whether they really cared or not. And then we won the Western Conference, and we're throwing a fucking parade in the middle of the pandemic and getting on cars and popping,
catching COVID,
and it's just like, dude, we celebrated the moment before the moment even happened, because it was like you're playing on house money. I think everybody knew that we shouldn't have been in that position.
That's so painful to hear you recount that story. Please don't ever do it again.
It's just, looking in retrospect, it was a great experience, and then people were questioning, oh, can they come back and do it? Because it's tough for teams to do it. And not only are they doing it, they're doing it better. So it's like, okay, then. I'm curious. So let's just say that we fast forward and we win the Western Conference Finals. Do you think we're going to be popping bottles and having parades? No.
Here's what's going to happen, okay? Booker's going to come out stone-faced. And you know, he's going to come out stone-faced. He's just going to be like, we don't care. We don't care anything about that. Anything about that. And same with CP3. They're going to have a totally different attitude.
And I think that's important for the progression too, dude. I think it's business as usual. It's like Kobe when he was asked, the job's not done. You remember that shit?
Yeah.
He got asked, the job's not done. That's it.
That's the only attitude that's acceptable.
Every playoff series, that should be the only thing coming out of people's fucking mouth. Job's not done.
Not Suns in 4. Job's not done.
Job's not done. It should be the fucking
hashtag instead of Valley Proud.
I better not see people putting glasses on.
You will.
And smoking cigars or counting fucking money under the basket. You guys know who you are. Sons and Four shit, the guy that got in a fight, like all that shit is cringe now.
The guy that got in the fight did nothing wrong except for you could say maybe he milked his
Milked
his
the
worth
fuck
a little
out of
bit.
that dog. He
But
made an
wouldn't
action
you
figure
milk
for
it?
himself.
You'd
Yeah,
have
of course.
several action figures.
But that bled into the next series, and people were saying Sons and Four for the fucking finals before we even did anything, and that's like it was like a fucking curse, dude. These Suns fans that have never, just like me. Fuck, I mean, we never won a championship, so why are we acting like this? It's so cringe to see this shit. And it was like, because I was telling people when they won those 2 games, I was like, we're fucked.
I remember that, and I was like,
I
dude,
told you
Salty's
guys,
crazy.
We need to win 1 game. I was like, this cannot go 2-2. And if it does, we're fucked. And then you guys were like, oh man, he's just being himself. And I was like, nah, it's just, I don't want that to happen. And if sure enough, whatever. It's like, all right. Sons and Four, counting money, dancing, smoking cigars.
Well, here's the thing about that.
you know?
Here's the thing about that. It's the same old adage about scoring a touchdown in the end zone and not shucking and jiving. They say, act like you've been there. Well, bro, we had never been even close. So we were shucking and jiving all the way into the end zone.
It's like the first time.
And then we Ronnie Lott, got the ball slapped out at the last minute.
It's like the first time you get pussy. You know what I'm saying? You're celebrating. You're probably skipping, crip walking down the sidewalk, on top of the world. But then it's just like your 100th time in. Shit. I mean, it's just status quo. You bust a nut and go eat something. You know what I'm saying?
That might be worse than any comparison
Analogy.
I've ever done. And I'm the one with the bad analogies.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward there.
I guess it makes sense. It makes sense. Guys, we will be back Wednesday. Some form of the crew, some number of horsemen will be here. But, man, Salty, anything else you can think of for that?
It's good news, man. It's not bad news, so it's good. Hopefully things will roll in our favor. It happened for the Red Sox. It happened for the Cubs after how many fucking years? So
Over 100.
let's go. Let's go.
We'll see you guys Wednesday.
Horsemen